Hello, my name is Anastasia Sprout, and this is a presentation I'm calling Energetic Synthesis, a Case Study. My intention in creating this talk publicly is to express my assertiveness about an injustice I experienced, which is an expression of my inner masculine power and helps me complete my grief. If this content is helpful to others who may be vulnerable to this kind of spiritual abuse, to recognize or prevent it, I'm glad. I welcome that. This is a case study of an online spiritual community called Energetic Synthesis, where I was a paying member from spring 2020 until 2023 in the summer. I and other people have been hurt by the harmful behavior in this community, and some are still being hurt. I waited over a year to share these concerns to ensure that I was not lashing out in anger. I am not coming from an angry place, but an assertively inspired one. In fact, I feel that holding in this information any longer would be an evidence of cowardice on my part and abandoning my self-care and a core value I have to be of service. Fear of exposure retaliation is no longer holding me back. Secrets like these that I'm about to share are harmful to keep as they block the natural flow of energy. And secrets make people sick, and I want wellness for all involved. How my ES ending began. About 1 year ago, not long before my Energetic Synthesis membership was terminated, I was called out by name in a live community-wide talk that was broadcast by Lisa Renee and her husband, Thomás. They called it a case study. This took place during an Energetic Synthesis Foundation's Friday evening call on 7/7/23. During this talk, the couple spoke in detail about the character of myself and another ES member by name, stating both positive and negative things. Among the negative things said was that we were both acting as possessed by satanic demons. We were not spoken to in advance, nor given an opportunity to respond to the talk in real time. This was an abuse of power. When I heard about this talk later, I felt hurt and angry. I might have felt humiliated, but fortunately I had the support of the other member who was also being treated in this way. I calmed down, and rather than respond with anger, I considered what was said and posted a loving counter reply in the community forum. So if you don't know, a community like this has a forum where people can post email, well, it's not technically email, but it's threads, and people can post their thoughts, opinions, pictures, music, whatever. Soon thereafter, I decided and told the community that I was planning to end my membership. The other target of this call left ES immediately. What led up to this one-way confrontation was that I had been posting on the ES membership site asking for changes to be made to improve the safety for survivors of occult, ritual abuse, and trauma-based mind control, like myself. Organized extreme abuse stories, including mine, can be deeply upsetting. I felt the site lacked adequate moderation and adequate boundaries, and people were reacting harshly to one another. It was painful when it was happening to me. I saw it happening to my friend who was also called out. And I had reached out directly to Lisa Renee via email to discuss this, and I was not responded to. So I started posting about it in the forums. And Lisa Renee does not give out her phone number, so I could not call or text her. In the talk by Lisa Renee and her husband, I was reproached for having recently coined the term Starflake. Starflake is a person who represents themselves as highly spiritual, yet is in reality ungrounded, weak, and lacks integrity. This term was introduced in ES by the other member, who was later called out with me, in a thread she called Starflakeism. and it bothered many members and leaders in ES quite a bit. If you care about ES and have the stamina to watch this whole presentation, you're probably not a Starflake. More on Starflakeism. A Starflake is a person who has an overload of shadow aspects in their own life and character that they are unable to process. Instead of facing their own darkness they fear, they project it onto others. For example, calling other beings satanic mothers or being demonically possessed. They play God figures by giving verdicts or having arrogance to label people they hardly know or have never met because they just had a hunch or they had a dream or a guardian told them, etc. Starflakes can be tremendously harmful to others while presenting as angelic. This is a form of spiritual perfectionism and spiritual abuse. Starflakes assume that the rest of the world is or are dumb and in dire need to be saved. Through this arrogance, they feel compelled to save the world as they see the world as the direct extension of their personas and not a separate entity. A typical Starflake is always the most beautiful angelic being of the highest order and vibration, and at the same time, the greatest victim. They have been manipulated, lied to, massacred for eons, are always sick, had their sacred info stolen by the wicked ones. With a typical Starflake, there's always someone else to blame. I don't mean to be insensitive to others' pain, symptoms of injury, or lack of maturity in using the term Starflake. And we need to find a way to connect without being Starflakes and quote unquote spiritually bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is a defense mechanism. Although it looks a lot prettier than other defenses, it serves the same purpose: denial. Spiritual bypass shields us from the truth, disconnects us from our feelings, and helps us avoid the big picture. It is more about checking out than checking in. And the difference is so subtle that we usually don't even know we're doing it. Quote from Dr. Ingrid Clayton. To clarify, the Starflakeism post on ES, which is over a year old and probably was removed, was written in satire, which can be a vital tool to help us heal and lighten up. Do your shadow work, people. Healing is often messy. In healthy communities, feelings flare up. People work through conflicts directly and move on. So, a bit more of a summary on the term Starflake. S, for spiritual self-importance. T, Starflakes have titles like Starseed, Elohim, Indigo, Lightworker, or special blood types that bring superiority, but actually cover shame. Starflakes must be admired by all. They may be preoccupied with their identity as a leader or guru. They are rescuers of other less advanced or less evolved souls than they think they are. They often are financially imbalanced or destitute, dependent, and or exploitive of others for their own gain, and secretive about money. Starflakes actually lack compassion and empathy, especially if you don't agree with them. They're arrogant. They have an exceedingly kind persona, but cannot admit they are wrong, nor do their own shadow work. And they exclude others who are not as special as them, or who might challenge them in any way. And I had to look at my own Starflakeism, which is part of what I posted back on the threads. Look, is this a mirror? Can we look into it and say, is this me? If it is, I need to work on it. So I want to go over the outline for the rest of the presentation. I'm going to start with positives in ES. I think any fair case study has positives and negatives. Then I'll give an overview of concerns, more specific concerns, and some outside evidence, and then I'll conclude with solutions. So here are some of the positives that I experienced in ES. First thing that came to mind was thinking about my former fellow ES members. In the online forums, I met new, kind, spiritually aligned friends, and I often felt moved and inspired by their posts. At one point, I was in a painful situation where other members' prayer support was a great gift to me, and I still feel grateful for that. Also from the forums, I appreciated the opportunity to write, share, and be positively supportively responded to about what was true and interesting for me. It was an online way of connecting. There's many, many meditations that are put out by Lisa Renee, and I did receive healing benefits from these and some of the educational classes. The meditations at one point became a replacement for prazosin, which was a prescription drug that I was taking for nightmares. So instead of taking a drug, I would listen to the meditations, fall asleep, and eventually was able to sleep better. And I appreciated getting off all prescription medications. I also hired 3 different energetic synthesis practitioners as spiritual counselors over the course of the years I was a member. And I received benefits in those relationships, especially from someone named Linda, who held space and offered me love, support, and guidance for over a year. Lisa Renee, the leader of ES, I appreciated her presence and her warm attention throughout the site, in forums, Miss Ascension Glossary, and her overall body of work. I learned or deepened my learning about many metaphysical concepts and skills as a member. I did feel supported by other members when I posted an online journal of my horrific experiences as an organized extreme abuse, satanic ritual abuse, or trauma-based mind control survivor, when they shared compassionate responses. So at first, the responses were very healing for me, but this began to change over time. I did appreciate the humor, especially to cope with dark situations and episodes. So pretty much the time I was in ES was during the lockdowns of 2020. And it was fun to have people to go online with and connect with and share humor and art the art was very beautiful. And it was a great source of truth news and resources. And I did very much appreciate that. In summary, energetic synthesis was kind of like Facebook for the stars or star seeds. It was better than Facebook. But the more I grew, the more my concerns about ES grew. And as I began to express these concerns, for example, about the lack of vetting of the skill and the ethics of spiritual practitioners that were recommended on the site, my positive experiences as a member began to shift. So I'm going to summarize my most serious questions to this day. First of all, a deceptive plan. After careful consideration, research, and over a year of pondering from outside the community, I am now concerned that ES may be at the core a greed-based, sophisticated psychological operation designed to render its members happy, subservient, and behaviorally passive. And the SRA trauma-based illiterateness of the site, not trauma-informed, but pretending to be. What I mean is, despite posting content and topics that reveal truth about satanic or occult ritual abuse, trauma-based mind control, and other forms of organized extreme abuse, and creating a special lilac group in the community to focus on these topics, I do not believe that energetic synthesis is properly equipped to deal with these issues. So it might be said, we're not saying that we're therapy, but to open up a special group for survivors of extreme abuse, I'm very concerned about that. I now see evidence that ES was created as a cleverly disguised false light community with a dark agenda wrapped in a beautiful spiritual package. It cannot approach the power of true in-person human community based on equality and love. And in fact, by taking up space as a community online, it can prevent its members from finding an in-person community. When my former spiritual practitioner, Linda, shared my concerns publicly on the ES site that I had shared with her privately, and she shared them without my permission, I was kicked out of the site. So some of the concerns I posted on the site, but then I was having more concerns. I shared these with her privately outside the site. And then she posted them inside the site without my permission, and I was kicked out. I believe she did this to play the hero with Lisa Renee, report on me, and seek status in the community. And at the time, I felt this was a painful betrayal. But what's true is I'd never actually met Linda. So in New Age spiritual communities, especially online, you don't know the person. It's kind of like online dating, buyer beware. Now I want to talk a bit about the New Age deceptive mind control agenda. So as I've been studying what happened to me and other communities, and this is just a general section of this presentation, I want to talk about the Aquarian false New Age mind control manipulation techniques that were originated in Tavistok in the UK. So Tavistok was in Sussex, England, and it was called the World's Center for Mass Brainwashing and Social Engineering Activities. From a somewhat crude beginning at Wellington House grew a sophisticated organization that was to shape the destiny of the entire planet, and in the process change the paradigm of modern society. So I think we all need to be aware of the Tavistok mass spiritual mind control brainwashing techniques. In these techniques, a skilled group leader can use the group to create a powerful family environment. And once the environment is induced, it's kind of the word like a hypnotic induction, it becomes possible for the therapist or the leader to manipulate a member of the group, not by a direct attack, but by subtly manipulating through suggestions to the other members of the group. So it can be a direct attack, but it can be just turning the group against someone. If the victim has been sucked into thinking of the group as something warm and helpful, then when the environment has been manipulated to turn against her or him, it will tend to have the impact of deep motherly rejection and family exile. So this is from an article you can find online, PDF from docdroid.net, Tavistok Institute, Social Institution of the Masses. Furthermore, if the victim is not completely aware of the therapist or the organization leader's chain of manipulation, she or he will tend to internalize the result, thinking that she themselves or he are responsible for this new awareness about her or himself. So I just suddenly realized, if the controllers can succeed in structuring a stressed individual or group situation appropriately, the victim can be induced to develop for her himself a special sort of reaction formation through which he or he democratically arrives precisely at the attitudes and decisions the dictators wish to force upon them. So it's a little psychological speak here, but I just wanted to share this, and you can look up more detail if you find the PDF. So these techniques were used in Communist China and Scientology, and they may be called struggle sessions. To me, the talk on 7/7/23 by Lisa Renee and Thomás actually felt like a struggle session. So I was being talked at as a case study, as if it was, neutral, positives, negatives, it's just the facts. But really, it was a very direct and painful attack. And it was a form of triangulation. So in psychology, triangulation is a term used to describe when a person uses threats of exclusion or manipulation. So I felt that was a manipulation. Its goal is to divide and conquer, which is talked about in ES as a terrible thing. But triangulation involves the use of indirect communication, often behind someone's back. So this was communication. It wasn't talked about directly to me, it was to the whole community. Typically, there's a limited to no communication between the two triangulated people, except through the person doing the manipulating. It may appear in various ways, but all are about putting people against each other. I think that's supposed to be pitting people against each other. Triangulation is an approach used by many different people who share one thing in common: insecurity. As a result, they're willing to manipulate others in harmful ways to get what they want or feel a sense of security. And this is from an article called Very Well Mined. You can freeze the frame and look it up. So I want to go back to specific concerns in energetic synthesis. So there's a concern that's been talked about around ES for a while, which has to do with original versus pirated work. What really happened with Kalantic science and ES? Lisa Renee's newsletter story is that she was divinely inspired to get close to the Kalantic science founder to protect her and associate with the KS community. And then she left and started her own similar community using the same kind of Christic language. So if you look at the information in ES, you will find that the language doesn't read like normal language. It has this words that don't really make sense unless you adopt this Christic language. So Ashiana Dean, who was the founder of Kalantic Science, accused Lisa Renee of intellectual theft and piracy and took Lisa Renee to court in September of 2016. Lisa apparently protested, saying that the language was spiritually universal. What is the legal truth here? I have noticed that Lisa Renee admonishes others who clone her work or her language in her newsletter, but is that what she did to Ashiana Dean and KS? And then she went on to accuse Dean critically of attacking her. I do believe information can be received intuitively by multiple people at the same time. I'm not really sure what happened. It happened before I was involved, but as I was exploring how ethical ES really was, I did find this lawsuit, so I wanted to put this out there. So here's some more community concerns about ES. First of all, the concept of love bombing. So when you come into the community, you can adopt an anonymous pseudonym, and mine was Starshine Seattle 44. And people immediately start calling me beloved or dear and relating instantly with overt love, despite the fact that they didn't know me. They didn't necessarily know if I was trustworthy. So while that felt really great when I first came into the site, it also can be fake. And it can disable personal discernment. Like, I don't want this love to go away, so I'll just go along with it. ES also presents a charismatic couple or family setting. And there's this cosmic love story, which I'll talk about as I keep going, that creates a powerful family or belonging dynamic. In communities that are socially engineered and weaponized, like in Tavistok, they definitely use that charismatic couple to manipulate the flock. Lack of critical thinking. There's a focus on intuition that's not necessarily balanced with critical analysis, particularly of ES. And this use of strange, divinely inspired language can create confusion and cognitive dissonance. I don't understand that, but Lisa Renee must know better than me because she's connected to guardians, ETs, etc. So I'll go along with it. And I've wondered about passivity programming, minimal emphasis on physical activity, local activism, or in-person connections of members. There's kind of a focus on rescue by advanced grid workers, the leaders, these guardians, and the upper echelon groups, the platinum group, the blue group, and maybe these are angel ETs versus human members actually making local changes in their 3D reality. Like, don't do anything. I also have concerns about special status. So emphasis on calling each other starseeds, indigos, L-team, or higher dimensional beings, certain blood type designations to suggest specialness or superiority over others and outsiders. So you remember the Starflake definition. Then the big one too here is ascension systems as a program or blame shift. So in ES, there's constant sharing from Lisa Renee and other members about ascension symptoms. However, I question, is this a suggestion of dysfunction? Are these abuse memories that might be coming through somatically that are not being recognized? Could this be a cover for parasitic energy draining or even targeting that might be happening for members that's not being looked at? So this would be an example of not being trauma informed, perhaps, and just calling everything an ascension symptom, or not being informed about direct electronic energy weaponry targeting and just calling it ascension symptom. I mentioned before that this creative, this new lilac section of the site, which was designed to address a profoundly traumatized population, and it requires attention and those with experience to understand. So I felt like this lilac site was just opened up without proper preparation, support, training moderators, anything like that. And when I called for that, then I was called out. And again, repeated pattern of missed or overlooked hostility by some members on the site, while focusing on negative direct calling out of members that questioned or were critical of ES. This is a pattern in the community. It didn't just happen to me and the other woman, it's happened repeatedly with people over time. And I'm going to talk more about that. When I question the lack of moderation, the line that I receive back is, we just let the community moderate itself. Or, it's kind of like, it's just all spiritual. It's all just fodder for growth. And I think there comes a time where if you're going to be working, for example, organizational abuse, that just doesn't fly. More concerns, the use of in-group language to bully or ignore criticisms. So members having natural concerns, disagreement, anger, or grief, desire to vent frustrations, they are ignored, written off as being in a victimizer place and not offer support or listened to. I saw that happen repeatedly in the site. Finally, is there a question of advanced truth woven with deception or missing information? There's a conspicuous lack of focus on the secret space program, technological targeting or harassment, stalking, cognitive warfare, social engineering, not much on geoengineering or transhumanism. Why is that? Maybe there's a lot more on there now because people have learned more. I don't know. But when I was there, it was conspicuously lacking, and people who brought that up seemed to leave the site very quickly. Finally, unhealthy groupthink. Well, not finally. How much do group leaders or group leader favorites manipulate the group perception? So you have this ongoing threads of people writing in about their thoughts and experiences and perceptions based on topics. But then you have certain people who perpetuate certain ideologies and denounce others with timely "I agree completely" posts, and this may sway the subsequent readers. So how much are things really shaped? This could add to confusion with the nonsensical spiritual language and fantastical false experiences. Now, I'm not saying that all the spiritual experiences on the site were false. I posted about my own, and they were very true for me. But there's also things on there that may or may not be true. People aren't necessarily, questioning that, or it's sort of like, oh, it's just this use of language that you can't really question because you can't really understand what it is. Chronically complain. So this is something I saw a lot with Lisa Renee, but others as well. Chronically complain about being sick, can't get out of bed, can't leave the house even. Role modeling that mental or physical dysfunction is a part of advanced spirituality. Once you get advanced enough, you're going to be attacked, so you can't leave your house. That's just unhealthy and untrue. Presenting as functional when actually engaged in harmful, addictive, or otherwise self-destructive behaviors in secret, and no one in the quote-unquote community notices or intervenes. I saw that quite a bit as I got to know certain members of the site. I thought, wow, they're struggling with active dysfunctions and addictions here, and no one's really saying anything. And to me, that's the classic of, what I grew up in, alcoholic dysfunctional families. I'll really talk about what's going on. You just present this very spiritual front. So groupthink is a psychological and sociological phenomenon in which members of a group will conform to the majority opinion to maintain group harmony rather than stating their own divergent opinions. And finally, one of my biggest concerns is the hiding and promoting sexually predatory practitioners. There's a known history of at least 2 male practitioners who were empowered by the site being listed in a special practitioner section, who were later accused of being sexually predatory toward their vulnerable female clients. And this included telling vulnerable clients that sexual contact or fantasy is part of the spiritual program of healing, offering to have clients move in with them or go on a grid work tour, starting a long-distance sexual intrigue, then cutting it off without explanation when another lover was found. This is using people, not loving them. And that's very concerning. Just didn't seem to be taken seriously, at least when I was there. And this was in 2023. So now I want to share more evidence. When I started looking into ES more critically online, as I was starting to grow dissatisfied and feeling like this site is not what it's purporting to be, I started researching YouTube videos, just looking up the word energetic synthesis, or at least Renee, and I found 8, well, now there's 8, I think there were 7 at the time, past members that were publicly protesting. And this was before me and my friend who she left and then I was kicked out. So I want to just present an overview of these because 8 is kind of a lot. I mean, if you think about who is going to bother, creating a YouTube video to publicly complain about a community, not everybody who has issues is going to do that. So, you know, this is a representative sample of a lot more people who are out there and are unhappy. So are these valid concerns or just projections? So first I want to go over, so this is really tiny print, but this is the actual email I got from Lisa Renee when she was terminating from the group. Dear Anastasia, it is with sadness that we must terminate your membership in ES immediately. Unfortunately, your duplicitous actions give us no options. Although we understand the reasons behind the surfacing of such behavior, we cannot allow you or anyone else to run rampant in our space to damage what has taken so much effort and time to build. We know there is a loving and caring side to you, but as long as you fail to keep that destructive side of you in check, we cannot allow you to stay here. We have no qualms with anybody having different opinions, even strongly voicing them. However, when lies and deceptions are weaved with the intention of harming us, we must draw the line. We can't allow someone to sit in our personal space who is duplicitous, lies with unchecked dark delusions, who scours every possible source for any vulnerable slander to support ill-begotten theories, who entertains dark imaginings and twisted accusations of character defamation and imaginary false doings of evil narratives, all while going through nooks and crannies for confirmation bias. There's much we can be a witness to, but we can't allow this in our, quote, living room. We find it ironic, Anastasia, that you of all people would accuse us of being in a cult. What have we asked of you other than to be kind, honest, and respectful? What have we given to you and everyone in the community for just $22 or $33 a month? You are being strongly misled, Anastasia. We hope that despite your need to cast shadows when in pain, that you have the personal strength to go beyond that and see the light of day. Unfortunately, like we mentioned before, this is not new to us, and there will be others that come along and bring up the same playbook. We are sorry you have taken it up and pray that you can see the difference of a life truth and are able to stay away from lying and duplicitous behavior. We wish you the best in your journey, Lisa and Thomás. So that was my termination letter. And I'm putting it here because one of the things she says was, this is not new. There will be others that come along and bring up the same playbook. Well, when I was researching, and some of the concerns I brought up to Linda are you aware of all these other people that have complained about ES? And then Linda had posted that in the forums, among other things. So here is an overview of what I saw when I went online trying to research other people's concerns. Our gang stalking new 2 years ago. This is on Reddit. Psychic predators, energetic synthesis cult, targeted harassment. So this is a former member. I'm not going to read all of this, but it's really harsh criticism, sociopaths, etc. Here's another one. This is Julia. And she talks about how Lisa Renee at the top of the hierarchy, she tried the meditations, used cannabis, got paranoid, disorganized, went to psych hospital, reached out 4 times to Lisa Renee, who did respond to her, but it was unhelpful. She attempted suicide. She felt it was catalyzed by forces outside of her. She felt she overshared her story in the forum and revealed her identity. She tried sessions with the ES practitioners who were unskilled, did not help, and made everything worse. So this was from March 30th, 2022. She does share that Lisa Renee does a lot of good things and there's a lot of truth, but she had some serious flaws, and that's Julia. Now there was Laura, who's a spiritual practitioner, who said that Lisa Renee put psychic blocks on her followers. Now this is much more alien type content. She says Lisa Renee is an alien mantis being attaching cords and AI chip implants, causing block interference with psychic insight, puts a bug over the heart of her members, puts on womb cords to create dependency and misalign reality. She calls her a ghoul and a government psyop alien. And that was from November 30th, 2022. And she said that Lisa Renee is no longer giving individual sessions. And this is someone who did sessions to former clients of Lisa Renee. So very harsh. Then there's Sean Kehoe, who did a 4-part video expose. So he was very involved with ES early on. His video was in August 2020. And so his videos were very involved because he was very involved in the community. He knew Lisa Renee personally. According to what he said, he found that she was in over her head. Now, this was before she even started the Lilac special site for organized extreme abuse, that just the sites that she had, that her actions or inactions had directly contributed to advanced mental illness and 2 suicides. And when people got back to her about this, she accepted no responsibility. And he said that he had witnessed that she mocked and ridiculed members behind their backs. She didn't consider critical feedback. She made incongruent and illogical arguments, didn't give credit to others who actually helped her out or helped, and that she was featured in the community with Thomás as a hierogamic couple, yet in reality, they were very dysfunctional and trying to hide the secret. He said he went to Bali in person with a workshop with Lisa Renee, broke up with his girlfriend on the way. He talked with Lisa Renee and Thomás, and at first he found that Thomás was very supportive, and he decided that he wouldn't go to the workshop. But then when he raised concerns later, he felt betrayed by Thomás and scapegoated by many members of the ES community, cut off without discussion or processing, and the community united to protect Lisa Renee. So that sounds familiar. He said he experienced Thomás as, quote, without a backbone, and the relationship dynamic as more like mother-son, where Thomás could not be authentic around Lisa Renee and was submissive to her. And he challenged Lisa Renee's lack of integrity. He saw that she had neglected dead plants around her. She pays taxes, so she's not sovereign for the IRS. And he noted that the people closest to Lisa Renee, the ones that she called her closest friends, were mean and snarky as hell. And what did that say about her? And why was that? Finally, he alluded to Thomás being terrified of Lisa as a result of his harming her. So Thomás harmed Lisa in some way. She forgave him and was holding space for him, but he was subsequently sycophantic after that. He said he wrote a letter urging fellow members to be direct with Lisa Renee about the behind-the-scenes concerns about her. So he was hearing fellow members vent about Lisa Renee, but they weren't telling her things directly, so he wanted to be direct. He said he still loved Lisa Renee, and he, valued the community in certain ways, but he valued being direct, and he encouraged other members to be direct as well. So that was in August of 2021. Here's another one on Reddit, Expose the Cult, explaining the beings in energetic synthesis cult Lisa Renee. Another one, our soul writings 3 years ago, exposing Lisa Renee and Ascension Glossary and energetic synthesis. Content removed on there. I didn't join it. And then finally, well, this one, not finally, Cosmic Love. This is a website talking about New Age bullshit. Lisa Renee, energetic synthesis. This is in 2019. Ascension and Disclosure Hijack. So this is a personal blog that's wrote. And then most recently, I found one that was dated for 5 months ago, and someone just asking, has anyone heard of this group? And then 2 months ago, someone wrote back and called it a cult, a high control group, said they stalk and psychically harass people who defect while trash talking, etc. So this theme of, do they stalk and trash talk? Well, do they stalk people who question energetically? Several people talked about that. And then someone else had just recently written, I believe you weren't or were misled. This is not how it is. Stop spreading nonsense. So someone was standing up for energetic synthesis there. So, okay, so I'm just putting out there that there's a lot of people out there that have concerns, so be aware of that. Also wanted to talk about money motives. So transitioning into this a little bit abruptly perhaps, but Energetic Synthesis is a paid site. It's not a volunteer site because the site creators have a ton of content on there and they moderate the groups and they do a lot of work and they talk about doing a lot of work. People pay to join the site, and membership was $22 or $33 a month per person or whatever it was. So I only knew about the number of foundations members back when I was on the site, which it was listed as having 746 members, which, if my math was right, it was about $8,000 a month. But they also had a blue site, they had a gold site, and they had a platinum site. So I wonder what the total monthly income is. That's quite a motive for doing the site. And is greed the driving force hiding behind inspiration and love? That is my question. Also, in groups like this, leaders can offer special attention to wealthy members in exchange for large donations that no one knows about. So I wonder, is that happening at ES? Because that happens a lot in certain organizations. And so I would not know about that. They did not solicit me for any private information, but I did hear a rumor that that might be going on in ES. So I guess we'll just be curious about that. Now I want to zoom in on concerns about Lisa Renee's husband, Thomás. So Thomás loves the Mona Lisa twins. So this I remember when he was on the site, he would post about this group as one of his favorite groups. He's really into music. And again, this kind of ties into my concern about this site that supposedly has special sections for survivors of SRA and trauma-based mind control. Okay, so you have this group that he's talking about that is one of his favorite groups. And he uses this group to talk about in a thread that this is the way kind of this song talks about like any other day. I walked to the post office in Santa Monica, California. I noticed a beautiful girl. We happened to walk out together. We're still together. So that's posted about how he fell in love with Lisa Renee and talking about this song. And this group has a clear grasp on the spirit of the heart. So it's okay, that sounds beautiful, this couple, and that's how they connected. And on his Twitter account from 2020, it looked like he was a big fan, had a lot of posts. So I was, myself and another person, were starting to do research about ES, like what's going on here when things are seeming strange. So, okay, here's peace sign. Nothing is real. Okay, well, here's more of his public tweets. He's tweeting about the Mona Lisa twins and how much he really likes them. It's so perfect, etc. Well, okay, so that's June 2020. Now, if you look on Instagram on the Mona Lisa twins, you start to see very clearly, you don't have to look very far, about themes of SRA and trauma-based mind control. So take a look at these pictures. Mona Lisa twins, regular posts on Instagram back then. Sacrifice your sisters to the guitar gods. Here's the twins' dad, the one eye sign. So if Thomás is the leader with Lisa Renee on this site, why can't he see the trauma-based mind control and SRA themes here? Is this really a safe place for survivors? So you've got the twins, one eye, witch, fire, conjuring magic, red, black, bloody hands, white rabbits, children, adrenochrome, Alice in Wonderland programs, monarch butterflies, product monarch, mirrors, multiple-eyed images, which suggest DID, MK Ultra, cat, beta kitten, sex programming, decapitation, sacrifice, lamb, bull, SRA. So lots of themes there. Even the Beatles were weaponized entertainment with ties to occult ritual practices. These groups are used for mass mind control, engineered to perpetrate degradation for the mass audience. So there's even a fan club site with the Mona Lisa twins, and Thomás has a page on there. There's his picture, and he's got a little sweet deer on there. Is that really him, or is that just a troll page? I don't know, but it looked like he logged in a lot. So, okay. So Thomás was also a screenwriter and director. So if you look up his career, you can see that he created, he was the writer of a screenplay called I Love You, Mommy. And here's a little take from that.
Mommy bought it for me. Yes, I like it very much. It's just like Granddad's playing. He told me it was just like this. I love you too, Grandma. I don't want Mommy to leave. Why can't she stay with me like you do?
Maddie, have you seen the car keys?
No, Mommy.
I can't seem to find them again. Maybe I have to go out, but I'll be back real soon, okay? I love you, Manny.
Love you, Mommy.
So Thomás was also an actor. So this is from a film he was a part of in 2008.
I want you to stay with us.
Good morning. That smells wonderful.
Look at that house.
Yeah.
So these are interesting themes. A young boy who talks to an invisible spirit while mommy leaves them. Is he mad? Did he hide her keys? Does the invisible entity he's talking to? He has an interesting reptilian on his shirt, the little boy. He has a movie about a man who is sexually unfaithful to his partner. So just curious, is Thomás acting the part of a high risk gamma couple on energetic synthesis but lacks integrity in his real life? And what man participates in his wife's community call condemning 2 women members without dealing more directly? What does that say about masculinity? He appears to be just following in Lisa's shadow while leading everyone to think they are equals. So Thomás gave a Tuesday talk on the site. This was right before I was terminated from the site. And this is some of the quote from what he said. Hello. What other thing that has come up for me over the years is how can I ask my higher self for guidance? How do I listen for an answer? And when do I know if I got an answer? Trust your guidance is usually the answer, but unfortunately for me, for a long time, this didn't help me. How can I know it's not my mind or my ego answering the question? How can I make sure the ego is out of the way? How can I trust my inner decisions when my track record is not very good in the first place? My inner compass seemed to be broken, spinning like a top when I asked for directions. It's better now, but it took years of being around Lisa and seeing how her inner compass was always spot on to stabilize mine. I tell Lisa that most of us on this planet don't grow up with a steadfast compass like hers. The reason for that messed up internal compass, at least in my case, was growing up in a house ruled by a dark mother. The dark mother is a master manipulator. She cannot control by force. She uses manipulation, including gaslighting. So to me, Thomás sounds like he is in a role of deferring his thoughts and his judgment to Lisa Renee. Just like, seems like it's kind of the price of admission, or at least the price of staying in there once you get in. So at times when I thought about energetic synthesis, I've gone to my worst fear. What if it's a black op or a gray op site designed to capture, distract, deceive, and otherwise perpetrate denial and spiritual bypass for highly spiritual, vulnerable people? And are there far more survivors of SRA, trauma-based mind control, or tech targeting on the site who do not yet have their memories returned, who are encouraged to see their actual somatic traumatic memories as ascension symptoms, thus covering up their true past abuse experiences so they don't heal from them? So it seems pretty clear that ES is not trauma informed, but this deficit, how far does it go? Is it deliberately designed to prevent traumatic awareness and healing, thus protecting actual perpetrators? I don't think it's deliberate. I hope it's not deliberate to shut people down. I really don't know. I hope not. But it does shut people down. I know that. So in the summary of all the complaints of former members, are we all just dark portal attacks by negative alien agenda, AI, Luciferian, satanic controlled humans? Like this labeling that was put on all the concerns, every single one. Did adding the special ILEC session to solicit and support members with occult ritual abuse, trauma-based mind control backgrounds actually make the problems worse? while convincing new organized extreme abuse survivors they'd be safe. So come on into the site, you'll be safe. By the way, all your symptoms, they're just ascension symptoms. So they can't heal. My concern summary is that energetic synthesis is a greed-motivated form of sugar-based mind control with a hyper-loving leader, mother figure, and a charismatic couple family designed to render its members passively subservient, energetically drained, behaviorally frozen like sweet children, little subservient, paying angels. At a minimum, I feel there are problematic patterns within ES that should be addressed with concern and care, namely the inability to receive critical feedback like adults and adjust accordingly. So some solutions if you're in ES is discern sincerity of your fellow members. Don't just think that because you're in there, everybody loves each other and there's going to be no problems. Sort out trust, let relationships develop over time, and ask to be in touch outside ES to get to know people with more intimacy so you really can tell about their character. Stay or go is discerned for everyone, of course, but explore options outside of ES for diverse spiritual perspectives and in-person community. As far as finances, connect with people for free and use creative writing, sharing to self-support. Don't let yourself be financially taken advantage of. And if you are going to write, retain control over your writing and editing. For example, I had my whole journal on there. I wrote all kinds of personal information, which I think actually kept me silent for a while because I was afraid that Lisa Renee would just retaliate and publish my personal information that I put in this paying site, that she would go out publicly with it. So you have to really know and trust who's going to see your writing. And if you get kicked out like I did, you don't have access to your writing anymore. Like, if you don't have a copy of it, it's gone. So, and if you do publish on the site and you think that it's private, be mindful. Somebody else could copy and post it. And I know that has happened. More solution focus. ES members need to look directly at and discuss all sides of concerns rather than avoiding them in a non-discerning passivity, which can be a form of traumatic frozen fawning. So if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to add the polyvagal theory, but just look up fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, because I think that's a big part of what happens in a community like ES, a lot of fawning. If corruption is present, face your brokenheartedness, loss, and grief, and be brave. If you lose your guru, well, you know what? Everybody is human and people have their shadow sides, even if they pretend they don't. Do not condemn those involved in causing harm. Condemn. But ask questions. And if there's actual perpetration happening or enablement, ensure that people get qualified help to heal. That may mean revealing or reporting any suspected active criminal behavior. And ignoring perpetration is not loving. So I want to come back to Lisa Renee's termination letter with me. So she said it was sad. She was sad that she had to terminate my membership. Okay. My duplicitous actions. I was not duplicitous. I shared my concerns with Linda outside the site because I was trying to figure out how valid they might be and get feedback. And then Linda shared all those concerns in the site. So it was Linda that shared things. I didn't do that, but I had a right to share my concerns and say, what do you think? This person had been a spiritual practitioner for me for a year. She cannot allow me to run rampant in the space or damage. Like, how did I run rampant in the space? I was just actually questioning. It's like she was enmeshed with my entire existence, and Linda's enmeshed, and that she spilled it on the site. We know there's a loving, caring side to you, but fail to keep that destructive side in check. It's like, it's not destructive to ask questions and even to share criticisms. Now, if I started doing a bunch of name calling or something like that, but here she's doing name calling with me, deceptions, lies, duplicitous. Yes, you do have problems with people having different opinions. Duplicitous, lie. I mean, over and over, dark, delusion, scoured. Anyway, I mean, yeah, I did. I started researching the site immensely. Well, and my other friend was researching also. So we were kind of both working on what is really going on here, which is a normal thing to do if somebody attacks you. It's like, wait, what's going on here? And then we find it ironic, Anastasia, that you of all people, well, I was open about surviving in a cult. And here she's saying, we find it, you of all people. It's like, wow, just like poke me in a very painful area that I've been very authentically honest about. And it's like, no, it's not ironic. It's actually the fact that I am healing from being in a cult makes it likely that I'm going to start to grow out of being in one. Like, oh yeah, this is familiar. I don't want to be in this anymore. So I was honest and I was respectful. And if you don't think it's kind to raise concerns, well, oops. Sometimes I guess I'm going to choose to be more direct than anything. Yeah. And then saying I was strongly misled. It's like, no, I was influenced in a positive way by another ES member. Yeah, she can speak for herself. I don't want to speak for her, but I can speak for myself. No one's misleading me. No one's making me do this presentation. I am doing this so that I can heal. And I just feel like this is a projection and yeah. Ugh. So her termination to me revealed her inability or unwillingness to be present with me in real time. She didn't call me. I tried to talk with her directly about my concerns. She could not have a serious and intimate exchange. And I do feel kind of mad right now just reading that again. She would not hear my concerns directly, though I was a subscribing member of her community. I also was a licensed psychotherapist at that time. I had a successful private practice, extensive trauma training, and personal healing. And I was trying to express concerns about her offering special online services for vulnerable SRA trauma-based mind control survivors while simultaneously insisting it was, quote, not therapy and not having enough moderation. That is not being unkind or duplicitous. To me, her arrogance is clear to see. She's telling me my reality, my intent, and that I was being misled to question her, but she never once asked me my truth. I saw that you reached out. What do you need? What's the matter? Like, what are your concerns? And this is gaslighting. And I responded, it was typo. I responded asking how I had lied. Like, that's what I said to her. How have I lied on the site? How did I lie? And I got no further response. So she couldn't respond to me. So, okay. So I said I wasn't doing this out of anger, and I'm not doing this out of anger intent, but it's stirring up anger right now because I so valued her. And I was like, to be treated this way, it really hurt. It hurts still, actually. But I had to look at my own shadow work. And I had to look how I was seeking a guru mama leader outside myself. I was outsourcing my wisdom, my love, and I was failing to act to create a meaningful in-person community while staying isolated online and safe. And I'm still working on this, but I have come a long way this year with this. So that was my part. Oh, I wrote this, but you can't really read it. I released Lisa Renee, Thomás, and the energetic synthesis framework. Maybe I don't really feel this. From having to be my guru. Oh man. Well, I'm just going to leave it at that. I can't read it because this came out wrong. But I do believe that they're projecting their unhealed trauma and their grief. And that's harmful when we project our unhealed trauma and grief. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but when they did this to me, it was harmful. And I think that I'm afraid they're doing it to others. Oh, there it is. I appreciated the positive things I received from ES. I remain concerned is riddled with problems that hide Lisa Renee and Thomás's unhealed trauma and grief, which is then being harmfully projected onto others who may question them. For current and future ES members, buyer beware. No, it's an online product. Linda, Lisa Renee, and Thomás, if you want to talk about this directly, please reach out. I'm right here. I emailed Linda and I tried to talk with her and she said, do not contact me again. So after a year of being my very loving practitioner, I questioned why she posted my stuff on the site without talking to me about it. I was mad at her and she said, do not talk with me again. That was it. So I'm right here. If you want to talk about this and bring some closure, I'll pursue closure on my own without you. And this is helping me do that. But if you want to, just reach out. Or if you need help, I can get you referrals. And for other people watching, please feel free to disagree or disregard everything I said today. Please question, discern, and decide for yourself. If you have additional information about energetic synthesis that indicates harm to you and others, and you need support, please do also feel free to reach out to me. I am grateful to say that I am connected with a network of trustworthy former and current ES members and others very spiritually gifted people who authentically and freely support one another to heal and be of service. Thank you for your careful consideration. I wish you well.